So I have a little science experiment planned for today. I hear a lot of people talk about their horse's feed and how much they're giving their horse, and they usually talk about their hay in flakes and their grain in scoops. I think it's really important to know how much of your feed fits into your scoop so that you can have a more accurate assessment on how much food your horse is actually eating. So if you look at the feed label on the grain or ration balancer supplement that you're feeding, it will tell you how much you should be giving to your horse. So let's say that you have a horse that's around 1,000 pounds in moderate work, and it says that your horse should be eating 4 to 6 pounds a day of that. So you're going to want to weigh out that 4 to 6 pounds of feed and mark on your scoop where that amount of food would be. If you find that 4 to 6 pounds of that feed makes your horse extremely fat, or your horse doesn't get enough calories out of that food and they're on 2% of their body weight in hay, you're going to want to switch your feed. So you'll either want something that is designed to be fed at a higher rate for your thin horse, or you're going to want to maybe go down to something like a ration balancer for your horse that is too heavy on that amount of feed. So the way I think of it is a really easy keeper. Like my horse, I'm going to have that horse on a vitamin mineral supplement. A horse that is a little bit more normal, I might have them on a ration balancer, or I'll use the vitamin mineral supplement and a small amount of senior feed. And the reason I would choose senior feed is because it's designed to be fed in a large volume, and so the amount of vitamins and minerals in it will be very low. So if my horse is just getting a half to 1 pound of senior feed and a vitamin mineral supplement, I am most likely not going to be over supplementing that horse with vitamins and minerals, remembering that a lot of those items are not water soluble. They will stay in the horse's body, and you may not notice a negative side effect now, but a few years down the road, the horse can have a problem from either getting too much or too little of their vitamins and minerals. Just something to think about there. So I'm going to show you, I think I have 12 different feeds. I just went around the barn and borrowed feed from everyone. I measured out 1 pound of feed and put in equal size containers. And you'll see how some of the containers hardly have any food in it and others are heaping over, spilling out onto the trunk, and I can't fit it in the container. And then I have a number of scoops, and I weigh out one product with all of the scoops, and you can see the difference in amount that each scoop holds. So hopefully that will help you to be able to figure out what the proper feed is for your horse by knowing the weight and reading your feed label. And if you have any questions, I can help with some of the basic answers, but really there are a lot of exceptional equine nutritionists out there, and they're not expensive. So I really utilize equine nutritionists quite a bit. I think it's really important to use their skill set for helping with determining the right feed. What you are feeding right now, your horse may look great on it, but in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, a deficit or an excess may start causing your horse problems. So we want to make sure and dial it in and really monitor what their nutrition is. Okay, so on with the rest of the video.
All these feeds have something in common. Each one of these containers is the exact same size, and they are all holding 1 pound. 1 pound of different feeds, and I want you to notice how 1 pound is a very different quantity. I don't know what all of the feeds are because I went around to different people in the barn and asked if I could borrow 1 pound of their feed, and so I measured it on a digital scale. One of the things I want to point out is this is 1 pound of shredded beet pulp. This is 1 pound of beet pulp in a pellet form. This is 1 pound of a senior food. This is 1 pound of a senior food from a different company. And this is 1 pound, like right to the top, of a senior food from yet another company. This is a ration balancer, 1 pound. And this is 1 pound of a ration balancer from a different company. So as you can see, these containers are not holding the same amount of feed.
So the next thing I'm going to do here is to go over some different scoop sizes, because a lot of times I hear people say their horse gets 1 scoop of grain, but as you can see, I have many different size scoops here that we can use. So I do have my digital scale and a large container, and I'm just going to use one product. It doesn't matter what the product is. And I'm going to start with 1 scoop out of this pre-measured. This is a pretty interesting, it's called Sure Scoop. And the owner of this scoop has actually marked the horses' names on here of how much they get. But according to this, measured to the top of the rim is 1.5 pounds of a pelleted feed. So let's see what we get here. 1.6 pounds of this pelleted feed. And I'm just going to put a line where this comes to for 1 scoop of this pellet. Now, what's interesting is I have the same scoop, and our scoops are not the same size, and these come from the same company. And what's interesting is this is 1.5 pounds to the top, and this is 1.5 pounds to the top. But I think they look quite different in size. So let's see what we end up with this one. Same product, filled to the top. 1.4 pounds. So this one is a little bit less. And I'm going to draw my line. It's really close to the other one. Right. Now we have scoops that I think a lot of us are used to seeing. So this is an interesting one too. This is from a company, and it says full scoop to the brim of a pelleted feed would be 1.2 kilograms, or let's see, 3 pounds. That's what my scale is set for right now, is pounds. Okay, to the brim. Okay, try not to feed the mice. And this comes to 3.1 pounds. And I'm not sure really the difference between this is for extruded, pelleted, textured, or a combination of textured, extruded. So depending on how you interpret, I think of this as being a pelleted feed, which should measure 3 pounds. We're just a little bit over 3 pounds. And there's my line. This is a scoop that we see very common at the feed stores. I have another one that is just a different brand. It looks like it's a little bit different size. And here's another one. And this one is also pre-measured from a company. It has, I'm going to do that one next. It has a line for pelleted, sweet feed, and oats. And I always think these are a little bit interesting to get a full scoop because they're diagonal. So I think the scoop gets measured this way because if you try and put it straight up and down, it all falls out. Turn my scale back on, make sure it zeros. And it's 3.4 pounds for this scoop. Make my line. And it does say that if you fill to a particular line, you will have 3 pounds of a pelleted feed. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to see, and I'm going to assume that's a straight across. So this should be 3 pounds. Like a little science project. And it comes out to 2.7 pounds. So this pellet is not measuring 3 pounds like this says it should be. So let's see how the next scoop of similar size measures as a full scoop. I almost don't have enough product in here to fill a full scoop. Whew, that feels heavy. 3, wow, that is 3.8 pounds. So that is almost 4 pounds to go to that scoop. Got another one of similar size. So what I'm hoping that everybody gets from this little project is that just using a scoop is not how you should figure out how much feed you're going to give your horse. You really need to look at your feed label. Oh, I just fed the mice. And this is 3.1 pounds. Totally different. And the scoops look really similar in size. So you need to read your feed label. And from your feed label, you need to determine how much food your horse should eat in pounds, and then measure it. And this is just a simple little kitchen scale that's a little digital scale. This one's a little different shape. We'll try it. And I read my feed label, and if it says that my 1,200-pound horse in light to moderate work should eat 4 pounds of grain, I'm going to weigh that out. And if 4 pounds of grain is too much for my horse, it's the wrong product, and I need to feed him something else. Because the nutritionist has designed the product so that when you feed the amount that is suggested, your horse will be getting the proper amount of nutrition to be able to have a nice, healthy life. Okay, so here's the true test. All these different scoops, these are the different lines of how different they came out in measurement. So all of those, that is one scoop of the same product, and you can see that each scoop gave a very different quantity. So if I were to buy a bag of senior feed and give my horse, what was my largest one? What was, I think this one, and give him one scoop of this, it would be like 4 pounds for that scoop. If I did it twice a day, that's 8 pounds. That's about appropriate for a senior feed to have to give around 8 to 10 pounds a day. So my horse would be getting the appropriate amount of nutrition, but my little cherub would be as fat as a house eating that much. And so I would probably opt for a scoop more like this size and use a ration balancer, which normally comes in between 1 and 1.5 pounds that we feed our horse per day. And if I weighed it, I bet it would end up being pretty close to either this scoop or the identical scoop from the exact same company that weighs completely different. These might end up being the right size for my ration balancer. If I'm giving a vitamin and mineral supplement, it's probably in something like this or even smaller, and that's going to have even less calories. So we really have to look at our feed labels and decide from there what the most appropriate food is, and we need to feed the recommended dose on the back of the feed label that the nutritionist has designed the product for. If feeding that amount is not the right amount for your horse, you need a different product. And most feed companies will have A ration balancer, a feed that's for a metabolic horse, someone that needs low sugars, a feed for a horse that's super skinny, a feed for a horse that's in a lot of work but maybe doesn't need as many calories. They just need the nutrition and they need energy. They'll have, some of them will have like soy-free products. So you just have to really look at the feed label. If you're not sure, the best thing to do is contact an equine nutritionist. Veterinarians don't have a lot of learning time in school on nutrition, and unless they have worked after they've graduated on educating themselves more on nutrition, they're not going to have as many hours as an equine nutritionist would have, and to have all of that diversity and understanding about all of the different feed products that are out there. So for me, when it comes to nutrition for my horse, the first thing I do is I call one of my nutritionist friends and ask them, what do I give my horse? Feed XL is also a pretty nice little program that you can put in what your horse is eating, and it will help you determine if the horse is getting enough calories, too many calories, if their feed is balanced, the whole thing. It's a subscription. I've used it quite a bit. It's a starting point. It's definitely not something that's going to give you all the information that you need, but it's a little bit of a starting point that can help you figure out how to get a general idea of what your horse should be feeding, and not just say, I'm just going to give a scoop because that's what the barn is feeding and my horse looks like they're a good weight. It's not just about the calories, it's about the nutrition that is in it. And then just another quick thing that I want you to think about is, if you're feeding a processed feed, like a complete feed or a senior feed or a ration balancer, and you're feeding it to the recommended amount, your horse is getting all of the nutrition that they need. Nutrition and calories are a little bit different, okay? So if they're getting all the nutrition that they need out of that pelleted product, and then you add supplements that have vitamins and minerals in them, you are giving them too much. And so that is something that a nutritionist would really help you with. And these big name nutritionists, a lot of them have designed these feeds for these feed companies. And so they know a lot about the different products that are out there. So cannot stress that enough. So enjoy your feed room, and hopefully you can minimize things down, read your feed labels, figure out in weight how much your horse is eating, and make sure that your horse is getting the appropriate amount, and that will make your riding so much better. Happy riding, everyone.